Morning, this is Heather from the Return to Work Mentor. We're on one of our morning walks, myself and my dog Pedro. So you may be able to hear footsteps in the background and the cadence of my voice as I walk. So this is going to be the third of three in the series, the little mini series I've been doing about the things that people might say to you along your recovery journey. And in some of these things people just say anyway, without it being related to an illness. But the first ones we've done so far, we've done You're So Brave. So that was the first in the series. Then the second one was when people say to you to look after yourself or take care of yourself, what that really means and really looks like. Now this one is subtly different from that. And it is, again, might be phrased in two different ways. People might say to you, don't be so hard on yourself, or be kind to yourself. So whichever way it is presented, this is about being kind and understanding of yourself and your situation at any given time. Now, what I find here is that, like some of those other statements, it sometimes makes me stop and think, what do we really mean by that? What do we really mean by being kind to ourselves? What do we really mean by not being so hard on yourself, suggesting that you are being hard on yourself in the first place? And if you are being hard on yourself, what is it exactly that you're being hard on yourself with or about? I'm going to pick up on two factors here. There may be more, you may be able to think of more. But one is your words to yourself. The other is your actions towards yourself. So remember, we're talking here about the context of work and health, running a business and managing a health condition. And therefore, this applies to how you are treating yourself with regards to how you're managing the situation between your current health condition and your work or business context. Just checking where the dog is. So I think the conversation I have most often with clients is about words and the critical inner voice, so otherwise known as the inner critic. A lot of us have this critical inner voice, which is constantly berating us for not doing things better, faster, differently, more effectively. And sometimes it can be hard to identify it because it may well have been running in the background of your life for a very long time. And you may actually hear a voice as if someone else is saying this to you. Come on, why haven't you done that today? Why haven't you got to the end of your to-do list? Why haven't you achieved more in this time you've had all morning and you've been faffing about? Now, if this is you, next time you hear this voice or imagine these words in your head, see what they say. Is it the same thing being replayed time and time again? And is it your voice saying it to you? Or is it actually the voice of somebody else from your past? If so, have a think about where you might have picked up this attitude towards yourself, because often it's a angry, frustrated, impatient attitude that is giving you these critical words, frankly, at a time where it's not appropriate. But the chances are that you have been dealing with this critical inner voice for many, many years. And it may go back to childhood. It may be related to your parents or siblings. It may be related to long-term partners. There's lots of places where this approach may well have become part of your conditioning. And it's interesting to consider that when you are recovering or dealing with a health condition, because suddenly your capacity is not what it used to be anyhow. So if this voice was already playing even when you were well, and it's still playing when you are unwell, injured, needing to reduce your physical and emotional cognitive activity, then it can really become very unhelpful, because it literally feels as if somebody inside of you. Okay, sorry, we had a pause there. Somebody on a bike yelled at me and completely lost my train of thought. I'm just going to try and pick up again here. We're talking about the inner critical self getting particularly persistent at a time when actually you need to be kinder to yourself. So one of the conversations I have with clients is that when we identify the words that they're utilizing here, the kinds of things that they're saying to themselves, which are likely to be repeated in similar ways all the time. This is based on old conditioning, but also it's the sorts of things it's highly unlikely that you would say to somebody else. And to frame it in that way, to say, well, would you say that phrase to somebody who is in your situation right now? Would you say it to a friend if you were advising or supporting them? Would you say it to a child? The answer is probably no. And if the answer is no, you know that you are being too hard and too critical on yourself. So then the next step in that is to look a little bit beyond that phrase and work out, well, why is it coming up in that particular way? And how could it be reframed? And it was very interesting. The most recent client that I discussed this with, they said, I don't know how to change it. It's so automatic. And you will find it's automatic. It pops into your head before you've got a chance to stop it. So that is really difficult. And what I recommend here, you may have other approaches, other techniques, so feel free to let us know if that's the case. But actually recognizing that it pops up, acknowledging what it's saying, but then countering it with something positive and something kind. So, for example, you've not worked fast enough this morning, you haven't finished everything on your to-do list. You might want to counter that with, I have finished the most important things on my to-do list, and in order for me to get anything else done, I now need to take a break. For example, it doesn't have to be that complicated, but to be able to counter the harshness as if you heard somebody else saying it and thinking, no, that's too hard. That's too hard. And I need to be kinder to this person outside of myself. That can often help by putting this outside of yourself and reframing it in a positive way. And then we have another bike pause this morning. So that's interesting in itself. So the old me, a perfectionist me, probably wouldn't be trying to record a podcast whilst walking a dog with passing cyclists anyhow, because I wouldn't have thought that was good enough. So one of my harsh inner critic voices would have been, that's not good enough. It needs to be better. It needs to be perfect. Whereas now I'm like, do you know what? This enables me to communicate some of the things that I've learned. It enables me to create some content which hopefully is helpful to other people, and I can do it whilst enjoying the outdoors with my dog. So I hope that's a good real-time example. So the other aspect of don't be so hard on yourself or be kind to yourself is actually in your actions. Maybe you say all the right things, but do you actually do all the right things? And are you truly being kind to yourself? And in that kindness of action, that is also choosing between an action which supports your health and your well-being to be sustainable, or choosing an action that is being pressed upon you by external circumstances that somebody else tells you is urgent, somebody else demands they want doing right now. Or you might be demanding that you do it right now, that hustle side of you, that perfectionist side of you, the side of you that feels stressed and busy and frustrated because maybe you're not working full hours. You really want to get this done. So there's almost an internal debate between you. In fact, I had one client many years ago who used to talk about the conversation that went on between the devil on one shoulder and the angel on the other. And I know it sounds like I'm encouraging people to talk to themselves here, but sometimes it can be really useful to debate this internally. So if you are feeling pressure to get on with some kind of activity or task, but actually deep inside you know that what you really need is to take a break. If you really need to go for a walk to clear your mind, to deal with something to do with your family, to deal with an emotional situation, to go and get your treatment for your health condition, then actually being kind to yourself is about choosing that option. choosing that option over the option where you push yourself beyond your current limits. Now, depending on your situation, your current limits may not be your final limits. You may be able to do more in the future, but just not today. One of the hardest things can be the fact that if you're trying to work, you're trying to cram in as much as possible into the time that you'd have set yourself and hopefully given yourself some boundaries. But that in itself can become difficult. And you find yourself in this debate between getting enough done and being kind to yourself. So I recommend a very simple way, simple but not necessarily easy, of trying to check in with yourself. This is literally pausing for a moment. Right on cue there, we had a Pedro pause moment, and now we're walking past a quarry that's making a lot of noise this morning. So I shall continue. Okay, so we're talking about tasks and taking a pause. Yes, so if you're in the middle of a busy day, how on earth do you work out what you need to do to be kind to yourself? And this does also relate to the taking care of yourself. Just literally stopping, like a stop the clock, time out, step off the world for a moment, and just evaluate what you have completed, what may or may not need to be done next in terms of your work, but also what your body and your health, your mind needs in that moment. And it may be that you need to go to the bathroom. You maybe need to have something to eat or drink. You maybe need to go and stand or sit in your garden. You may need to just stop for a few minutes and process what you've been dealing with during the day so far. And then check in with your priorities of the things that you still have to do that day and which of them are really important. Now, actually, I'm the first one to know that this doesn't work easily if you have booked appointments in your diary, whether you are a healthcare professional, whether you have meetings back to back. So the interesting thing about those scenarios is, sorry, noise distractor. The interesting thing about those scenarios is that if you find yourself continually in a situation where you don't have time to stop, even for a few moments on a regular basis, then looking at the way that you structure your work may be required. Because it's about not being hard on yourself and or being kind to yourself. Is about seeking that place. I don't like the word balance because it's never a balance. It's balance. Well, balance suggests, the word always suggests that you have found the perfect resting place where nothing changes. The truth is, balance is a constant change, constant evaluation, constant changing backwards and forwards of the situation in which you find yourself. So maybe it is a good word to look at the balance between your work, the demands of your work, and the needs of your health. And being kind to yourself means choosing your health on a frequent basis so that you're able to continue to do your work in a way that is sustainable for you. Sometimes we have to zoom out and look back at how we've been working. We might not be able to do that in the moment. And say, have we been pushing ourselves? Have we been trying to get too much done? Have we been listening too much to our inner critic voice, pushing us to do more than we know we're really capable of doing right now? And in which case, we may need to take some time to reevaluate that and redress that and ensure there is more space, more time for looking after your health. So I'm going to wrap that up. I know it's a little bit disjointed with all the interruptions that we've had, but that's a great example of where in the past me would have got really wound up and needed to start that all over again because my inner critic would have had a field day about this not being good enough. So if you're listening to this, you know it's got past that for me. So yeah, wrapping up. If someone says to you, don't be so hard on yourself, maybe ask them what it is that they see that makes them feel you are being hard on yourself, because it's not always obvious to you, because it may be the way you've always been. So what is it about that they are pointing out? Because that might be really valuable learning. And a topic for another day is that being hard on yourself and pushing yourself may be one of the reasons that you're in this situation, that you're not well, that maybe you were pushing yourself too hard for too long and that contributed to your current health situation. Yeah, another topic for another day. And then if someone says be kind to yourself, take that as a reminder, as that moment to go, okay, what does being kind to myself look like to me? What is kindness for me? How am I kind to other people? And where am I being kind to other people, but I am not giving myself that same kindness? And see if you can find some ways to start being a little kinder to yourself and a little more compassionate in the times when you are struggling. So I will leave it there. If you do need any help or support, please do visit my website, returntoworkmentor.co.uk, and there's a number of services and resources there, all the way from some free resources to a digital course, through to being able to book one-to-ones with me if you feel that you need some personalised support. And I'll look forward to speaking with you again soon.